I'm planning to build a $1 million law firm within the next year. That's $83,333.33 in revenue each month. Here's what I'm planning to do to get there. To set the scene a bit, I'm currently a solo attorney, and in the last couple of months, I've been able to build $10,000 in each month. And that was a part-time effort with no employees. And I've already run into a bottleneck, which is client intake, which brings me to the first step on my path towards $1 million, and that is hiring an intake assistant. This step is well underway. In fact, as of the filming of this video, I brought on an intake department manager, and this is going to be the person who's in charge of building out the intake team. In the meantime, they'll really act as an intake assistant and help me with incoming calls. And when I say intake, I mean the bridge between marketing and fulfillment, and fulfillment in this case is doing legal work and billing hours on the legal side. The bridge that is intake is what allows people to come from being a cold lead or a somewhat warm lead and turning them into an actual client. You need someone to facilitate that transfer between the two sides. And a great intake system will allow me to turn more leads into paying clients and allow me to focus more of my own efforts on everything that isn't intake, aka actually doing legal work and hiring other people. The intake team will be our initial filter for incoming calls, and we'll also try and collect information so that we can figure out how we can best help the potential client. To date, I've been spending multiple hours per day on intake, and that's with a fairly small marketing budget, at least small compared to where I want to get. So I'd rather get someone in there now to try and up my capacity on that side, because if I just start paying for more leads, that's more hours I'm gonna have to spend on intake, which is less time I can actually spend towards servicing those leads who become clients, because they're gonna have their own legal demands now. So getting a couple hours per day back that I can then bill for hundreds of dollars an hour is well worth it, and even better would be if we can build out a great intake team and an intake system that allows us to seamlessly bring in people into our pipeline that come in from our marketing efforts. I think it's going to be one of the most important elements of the entire business. So that's why it's step one. And step two would be hiring an associate. Right now I'm interviewing associates to join the team because once we get the intake side of things figured out, that ups our capacity to bring in leads a lot more. But then as we bring in more and more leads, we're going to run into the opposite problem, which is not having enough capacity to fulfill the new clients, because we'll need more attorneys, more clerks, more paralegals, that sort of thing to actually bill clients. Or to put it another way, once the intake bottleneck is solved, the next bottleneck will almost certainly be capacity for client work. If I can hire an associate for something like $100,000 per year, and in exchange I get something like $350,000 in revenue out of that associate, that's going to put us in a great position to continue to scale the firm. And just as a point of reference, in the big law world, the typical spread might be something like $200,000 in salary for a starting associate in exchange for something like $1 million or even much more in annual revenue and annual fees billed by that particular associate. And at the same time, a solid associate hire will allow me to focus on the areas that I am more competent in. I'm not an expert in every area of law, and if I can bring on some associates who are a little bit better in different areas than myself, that allows us to cover more clients more effectively. But with a good associate hire, that would expand our capacity for legal work in a significant way, which would lead to the third step, which is upgrading our marketing. With our capacity increased, it'll be time to turn up the marketing dial. Right now, with my current campaigns, which have been running for less than $100 per day, I'm looking at something like a 4 to 6 times return on my ad spend, and that's within the first month in most cases. So as long as that ratio holds as I expand my marketing spend, that gives us a lot of room to grow pretty quickly. And to this point, pretty much all I've been doing on the advertising side have been some Google search ads, and there's so much more that I could be doing on the marketing side to improve things, adding video ads, getting onto other platforms like Facebook, or also YouTube and other Google products, and just creating a proper ecosystem of marketing to really improve that area. I have a bunch of videos for ads that I want to film so I can really build out a great marketing foundation. And if you want to see my whole plan, which I've covered in detail on this channel already, then be sure to go ahead and check out the video that I'll link above right now. And so far, I've only been advertising in Texas. I do have my license in both Illinois and Texas. I used to live in Chicago before I moved down to Houston, so I can tap into that market as well. I don't really have a need to at the moment, but that does provide some extra space for expanding in the future. But with some help on both the intake and legal sides, I'll have a lot more capacity to spend my time towards the marketing efforts that I'd really like to get to. But now for the fourth step, and that's hiring support staff. It'll make a lot of sense pretty soon to bring on a secretary or a paralegal or someone who can help with more administrative tasks that are still very necessary to keep our legal practice moving forward, especially for more routine tasks like document formatting, making filings, opening matters, and things like that. It'll be a lot more efficient to pass that on to to a secretary or a paralegal rather than giving those to an attorney, and it should help to avoid cost overruns and allow attorneys to focus on the thing that they are best at and what they're being paid a lot of money for, and that's giving advice. And plus, having a solid secretary or paralegal would allow the firm to operate more quickly and smoothly than if we didn't have one. And that brings me to step 5, which is repeat. As client demand grows and as our capacity grows, it'll be a never-ending balancing act between the two. Once intake becomes the bottleneck again, it'll be time to hire another intake assistant. Once client demands become too much to handle, it'll be time to hire another associate or paralegal. And once we have too much capacity again, it'll be time to double down on marketing, and so on and so forth. Although I'm making this sound a lot easier than it probably will be. But reaching a $1 million top line would imply needing something like 2 to 3 full-time attorneys on staff. And that sounds very achievable if you ask me. Of course, I'll be documenting the process along the way, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future updates. And I'm definitely excited for what's next because I feel like I have a really strong opportunity here, and the game of putting all the puzzles together is pretty fun, although it can be pretty stressful too. We'll see what happens, but if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.